A shy 9-year-old girl from Shelby County, North Carolina, disappeared in the middle of the night in 2000. The fourth grader's disappearance shook the rural community where she lived. Her whereabouts are still unknown to this day, but could new information and imminent searches give us the clues about what actually happened to Asha Degree? Harold and Aquila Degree married on Valentine's Day 1988. Their son O'Brien was born a year later, and then Asha was born in 1990. The Degrees raised both children in their home on Oakcrest Drive in a residential subdivision amidst a generally rural area, Shelby, North Carolina. Her parents both worked regular jobs nearby. Her father, Harold, was a dock loader, and Aquila worked building pianos. The children let themselves in after school, where their parents expected them to be doing their homework or finished at least by the time they returned home from work. They made sure that their children were insulated from outside influences and had a life centered around their extended family, church, and school. The Degrees did not have a computer in the house. Asha was cautious, shy, and content mostly to stay within the limits her parents had set. She was scared to death of dogs. I never thought she would just go out of the house on her own, her mother said. Now, Asha was in the 4th grade at nearby Falston Academy. The Cleveland County schools were closed on Friday the 11th of February, and while the Degrees still had to work, their children spent the day at their aunt's house in the same neighborhood, where they went to play basketball practices with the school. Now, the following day, Asha's basketball team, on which she was a star point guard, lost its first game of the season. Asha was fouled out, and her parents record that she was somewhat upset about this, crying along with her teammates afterwards, but seemed to have gotten over it and watched her brother's game later that day. The day before she disappeared, on the 13th of February, it was a Sunday, and the children had gone to church with family and relatives and returned home. Now, around 8 p.m. that night, both children were sent to bed into their room that they shared together. February the 14th was a stormy night in Shelby County, North Carolina. Almost an hour later, the power went out in the neighborhood. The power came back on at around 12:30 a.m., at which time Harold checked on his children and saw both Asha and O'Brien asleep in their beds. He checked again before he went to bed at 2:30 a.m. and again saw both of them in their beds. But shortly afterwards, her brother, who was aged 10, recalls hearing Asha's bed squeak. He did not further rouse himself, as he had just assumed that she was merely changing positions in her sleep, so apparently he went to sleep himself. Now, apparently around this time, Asha had got out of bed, taking a book bag she had previously packed with several sets of clothes and personal items, and left the house between 3:45 a.m. and 4:15 a.m. A truck driver and a motorcyclist both saw her walking along Highway 18 wearing a long-sleeved white t-shirt and white pants, just north of its junction with Highway 180. Now, when Asha's mother opened the children's door to wake them up at 6:30 a.m. and called them to have a bath, she noticed that O'Brien was in his bed, but Asha was not.
It was like, look, and when I looked across it from his bed to her bed, the cover was pulled back and she wasn't in the bed. When I looked in their closet, she wasn't in their closet.
Her mother was unable to find her in the house or in the family's cars, in the garden, and told her husband. He could also not find their daughter and suggested that Asha might have gone over to his mother's house, so Asha's grandmother's house. But her mother called the grandmother's house and she was not there. The family started to panic. As officers initially searched the home for clues, it was evident that there was no sign of forced entry to the property. Scent dogs tried to track her scent, but there was no promising scent trail for them to follow. And as police asked for the public's assistance In locating Asha, at least 2 people came forward and claimed that they'd seen a young female matching her description walking along Highway 18 around 4 a.m. One person said that they saw someone turning their car around as if to pull up next to the girl, but she ran into the woods and wasn't seen again. Another tipster told detectives that they'd saw a young girl get into a green car that looked like it was from the 1970s. Bearing in mind that this was year 2000, so a 1970s car is not something that you would regularly see on the road. The FBI said that they were looking for a green Ford Thunderbird or Lincoln in connection with Asha's disappearance. By 6:40 a.m, the first police officers arrived at the scene, bringing their police dogs. Friends, family and neighbours all cancelled their plans for the day to assist police in searching the vicinity, while the pastor of their church, along with other area clergymen, came to the Degrees' home to offer support. And by the day's end, all that they had found was a mitten, in which Asha's mother had said did not belong to her daughter, noting that no winter clothing had been taken from the house. Local news coverage prompted the drivers of the vehicles to come forward, stating that they had seen Asha walking along the road in the early morning hours, including the one that had tried to approach her when she'd fled into the woods. On February the 15th, candy wrappers were found in a shed at a nearby business along Highway, near where Asha had last been seen. Along with them were a pencil, a green marker and a yellow hair bow that were all identified as belonging to Asha. Also found was a photograph of a black girl around Asha's age who had yet to be identified. It was the only trace of her during official searches. On February the 16th, her mother realised that Asha's bedroom was missing her favourite clothing, including a pair of blue jeans with a red stripe up the side. And a week later, the search was called off after 9,000 man-hours had been invested in the search. The search had concluded for 2 to 3 mile radius around where she'd last been seen. Flyers were printed and handed out, placed on businesses, abandoned houses were searched, and people came forward with possible sightings. And police urged the media to keep the story alive. But as the leads dried up and Asha did not return home, people started to question if Asha's case had now become a cold case. Her family hosts an annual walk for her from their home to the billboard to draw attention to the case. And while the circumstances of Asha's disappearance at first seemed to suggest that she had just run away from home, investigators could not find a clear reason as to why she might want to run away from home. She was also younger than most children when they run away. The FBI states that most children that run away are at least 12 years of age. So both the Federal Bureau of Investigation and North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation, the SBI, got involved and put her on respective databases of missing children. And while the agencies were done searching in the area, the FBI stated that they felt that Asha had been taken and believed that she'd planned and prepared for this departure over several days before her disappearance. But she was not their type of runaway. She was not the age that they would expect her to be. And the FBI agent pointed out that there was a lack of an issue at home that might have made her want to run away in the first place. She didn't have a dysfunctional family. She didn't have poor academic performance. But still, investigators believed that that was the most likely explanation for her departure, but that for some reason, she either got off track or was abducted. Now, the Degree family appeared on the Montel Williams show to call for attention on the case, and also America's Most Wanted and the Oprah Winfrey Show also devoted segments to Asha. On the 3rd of August 2001, A year after Asha disappeared, her book bag and other items were discovered during a construction project off of Highway 18 in Burke County. This was about 26 miles north of Shelby, and they were wrapped in a plastic bag. The worker who found them said that the book bag contained Asha's name and phone number. Now, the FBI took it to their laboratory in Virginia for forensic analysis, and the results from the testing have not been shared publicly. To date, it is the last evidence found in the case. And on the 20th anniversary of Asha's disappearance, the FBI confirmed that the book bag contained a copy of Dr. Zeus and a t-shirt depicting the band New Kids on the Block. Neither appeared to have been her property before they were found in her bag, and the book was from the library at her elementary school.
Law enforcement over the years has upped the reward for information, and they have also released more details as time has gone on. And of particular note now, a green car. Nearly a decade ago, deputies said they were looking for a 1970s Lincoln Mark IV or Ford Thunderbird, a detail that is getting a lot of attention now. Whatever may come of the case, it's an investigation that is still open, 24 years in. Many we spoke with for this story Thursday did not want to talk on camera, but they hoped for a resolution soon, something her family has themselves wanted from day one.
I wouldn't wish this on nobody, not even my worst enemy.
And now, 24 years later, Asha's case is back in the headlines after a warrant was carried out this week in Cleveland County at a property connected with Asha's case. Now, search warrants were obtained based on physical evidence directly connected to Asha's disappearance. On Friday, the 13th of September, Cleveland County Sheriff Alan Norman said that the recent raid of a property along Cherryville Road in Shelby is tied to the case of Asha Degree. Officers and agents could be seen carrying boxes to and from a home during their search, and an older green vehicle, one like they described, was towed away from the property. Multiple items of interest were taken and analysed. Now, the vehicle that was towed on Wednesday, the 11th of September, did draw particular interest due to its resemblance of the vehicle wanted in connection with Asha's disappearance, and authorities believe that Asha got into a 1970s era green vehicle on the night that she went missing. Now, authorities did not specify what they found, what they removed from the Cleveland County property during their searches, but it was immediately clear how the search was tied to Asha's case. Several members of each agency could be seen at the property, and specially trained police dogs were also called in to search. Now, the search did wrap up on Wednesday night, and the sheriff's office did request that the community does not spread rumours on social media. Asha's body has not been found. Her mother believes that she is still alive to this day. And 2 decades on, the girl that would now be in her 30s is still believed to be alive, as far as the family are concerned, with local and state law enforcement agencies offering $45,000 in reward for information leading to Asha Degree.
Keeping you updated on this breaking news happening right now out in Cleveland County. We've been telling you about this massive multi-agency investigation and search unfolding in Shelby, and now there's been some new activity.
Again, just minutes ago, and here's what you're seeing: a tow truck towing out a green 1970 era vehicle. Appears to be an older model green car, again pulled out from a second home on the same property where we know law enforcement, FBI, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office has been searching since yesterday, again all day today. Talk about why this car is so important and why investigators might be taking it away. Let's take a look to something that the FBI put out to the public. 2016, the FBI said they were looking for a car that might resemble something like this in their search for that missing girl, Asha Degree. We don't know exactly still today what exactly investigators are looking for at this property that they've been at since yesterday, but this is our first indication as they haul away a green car, 1970s. It's not an exact match. At the time in 2016, the FBI said they were looking for either a green Thunderbird or a 1970s Lincoln Mark IV. So the car that we saw hauled away is not exactly the same, but very closely matching.
Now, after we saw that car being towed away from the property in Shelby County on Friday evening, a crowd of news reporters descended on the law office of Teddy Meekins and Talbot, and this was on Falston Road during a rare press conference by an attorney. This attorney was speaking out on behalf of the man whose property it was, whose vehicle it was, that is now under intense scrutiny. So Teddy spoke out on behalf of Mr. Roy Lee Dedmond. He is the man that apparently owns the vehicle, owns the property. He said more answers will be forthcoming once the search warrant is made public, and this is expected to happen sometime this week, so keep your eye out, guys, for that. Now, Mr. Dedmond's house and property and vehicle on Cherryville Road was the site of this 2-day intense search by federal agents. Now, the search and ensuing silence by law enforcement has obviously spurred rumours of, has she been found, deathbed confessions, the discovery of a body or multiple bodies, more speculation. Mr. Teddy said that Mr. Dedmond was questioned by law enforcement the day of the search, and he denied knowing any information about what happened to Asha. The distance between where she lived on Oakcrest Drive and the distance between there and Cherryville Road, which is where they have been conducting searches, is 9 minutes, 8.9 kilometers away. Did they know the family? What is the relationship to Asha Degree? He said that they were unable to supply information to law enforcement that supported that claim. Mr. Teddy said that he is a Shelby native himself and has been practicing law for 36 years, and for almost 25 of those years there's been a little girl in his community that's been missing in the name of Asha Degree, and what's happened to Asha is the concern of the whole community. He said that not only Mr. Dedmond, who is now in his 80s, his wife, daughters and other family members have been interviewed and have said that they have no information on what happened to that little girl. It is not for me to make public statements about cases that are pending. Now, we don't have an actual case in a courtroom that is pending at the moment, but it's merely an investigation. But he did say, I feel compelled because of the rampant conjecture about my client and speculation that is happening in the community. He said that those conjectures have been false and are being spread as factual. He emphasized that no human remains have been found. Has been no body, let alone 7 bodies, he said, or rumours. Now, some people are putting out on social media that a number of bodies have been found. He said this is not true. There's a statement on social media that Roy Dedmond has confessed to having some information or knows something about his involvement in the disappearance of Asha Degree. This is also false, the attorney said. No person has made any type of confession that I am aware of. He has asked people to honour Asha, her family and Mr. Dedmond's family by not making false statements about the search. If you spread anything that is not fact, then you are participating in a disservice to Asha and her family. Mr. Teddy did reiterate that once a search warrant is made public about his client, then it will maybe be made more clear. He said, I think that there will be some information in the search warrant that will sadly link a person to the circumstances of Asha's disappearance. That she is no longer living, he said, and it's very possible, I'm not saying the person that was named in the search warrant that had anything to do with her disappearance, because I don't know any of that. I don't know any more than you, he said. But it is very possible that one person who is no longer here, so has passed away, has the answer to what happened to Asha. The answer may very well never be known. So who is responsible for Asha's disappearance? What will they find in this green car? DNA, evidence, anything of Asha's. What will they find at this property? They have been seen removing boxes. They have been seen taking things out of this property, possibly photos, documents. We will not know until this search warrant is made public this week as to what they were looking for when they did execute this warrant at this property on Cherryville Road. Keep your eye out for that, guys, because that will be out soon, and you probably will be able to Google the search warrant. For now, Asha has not been found. For now, nobody has been arrested for her disappearance. But the attorney for Mr. Deadman, the man that owns the green car, is saying that it is possible that somebody that is no longer living may be the person responsible for what happened to Asha. They have the green car. They are now able to forensically examine that car and hopefully get fingerprints, DNA, trace evidence, or anything belonging to Asha. What else will they find in that property? What documents and photos will they find? And who will be arrested for Asha's disappearance? The case, unfortunately, guys, continues.
And there are some days I don't talk, I don't do anything.
Asha's mother, Asha Degree, has over the years given a number of interviews on the case.
It was like, look, and when I looked across it from his bed to her bed, the cover was pulled back and she wasn't in the bed. When I looked in their closet, she wasn't in their closet. I wouldn't wish this on nobody, not even my worst enemy.